The tree queen mother stepped forward. "Hold out your hands." Nkiru obeyed, though fear shook her bones. The baby was placed into her arms. Warm. Real. Alive. The moment the baby's weight settled against her chest, something in Nkiru shattered open. A love so sudden and fierce she almost gasped. "My child," Nkiru whispered, as if the word was a secret. The tree queen mother watched her quietly, then spoke with slow, careful power. "I have given you what you begged for. This child is called Ifunanya." Nkiru swallowed. "Love." Ifunanya blinked up at her, and for a moment, Nkiru forgot every insult, every lonely night, every hunger. But the tree queen mother's smile faded. "This gift comes with a price," she said. Nkiru tightened her hold on the baby as if someone might snatch her away. "Anything," she said quickly. "I will do anything." In a faraway land, where dawn arrived with a cry of roosters and the soft drumbeat of pestles and mortars, there lived a woman named Nkiru. People often said her name meant the future is greater, but for many years, Nkiru's tomorrow felt like a locked door. She had married young, full of laughter and hope. Her husband, Ozzy, had once been gentle with his words. In the early days when the moon hung low and the night air smelled of smoke and soup, he would hold her hand and say, "We will have our child. The season will come." But seasons came and went. The sun rose and set over their roof, over their empty mat, over the corner of the hut where a child's small sandals should have been. 7 years. And in that faraway land, 7 years without a child did not stay quiet. It gathered voices. It grew teeth. Whispers followed Nkiru the way flies followed ripe fruit. "Maybe she is cursed. Maybe she offended a spirit. Maybe her womb is asleep." Nkiru did not answer them. She only worked harder, fetching water, cooking, cleaning, washing, praying until her knees ached. At first, Ozzy defended her. Then he stopped. Silence arrived like a stranger and sat between them during meals. His eyes became heavy with disappointment. His patience cracked little by little. One evening, Nkiru returned from the stream and found a bundle by the door. Ozzy was tying the last knot with calm hands. "What is that?" she asked, though her heart already knew. Ozzy didn't look at her. "My things." Nkiru's throat tightened. "Why?" He finally lifted his gaze, and his eyes were hard, hard like dried clay. "I cannot waste my life," he said. "I deserve children. Real home. A real family." Nkiru took a step toward him as if she could pull the words back into his mouth. "Ozzy, please. I've tried. I've prayed. He cut her off. "I have found a woman who will give me what you cannot." The world tilted. Nkiru grabbed his wrapper, her hands shaking. "Please don't leave me. I will do anything. I will go anywhere. I will." Ozzy pulled away. "I am done." And just like that, he walked out as if he was stepping away from a small inconvenience, not a life he had promised to share. That night, Nkiru cried until her chest felt empty. She cried until the morning birds began to sing and her tears had become salt on her lips. After Ozzy left, survival became her only companion. She began to go into the forest daily, not to gather beauty but to gather firewood. She cut dry branches, tied them into bundles, and carried them to the market path. The load bent her back. The sun burned her neck. But she did it because hunger was crueler than shame. The forest became her safe place. Quiet, watchful, older than human gossip. Sometimes after cutting wood, she would sit on a fallen trunk and stare at the trees. And because nobody could hear her there, she would speak to the air like a desperate child. "Oh, Creator," she whispered one afternoon, her voice breaking. "Even if you will not give me joy, at least let me feel what it means to be a mother once. Just once." Her tears fell onto dry leaves. Then the wind changed. It wasn't the normal wind that carried dust and heat. This wind was cold, clean, heavy. It moved between the trees like a presence. Nkiru lifted her head and froze. An old woman stood before her. Nkiru had not heard footsteps. She had not seen anyone approach. The old woman was simply there. Her wrapper was green like fresh leaves. Her hair rose from her head in thick twisting forms that looked like the trunk of a great tree, rough, ridged, and layered with deep grooves. Her eyes were deep, too calm, too ancient. And in her arms she carried a baby. The baby's skin glowed softly, as if dawn lived beneath it. Her tiny hair was pale and bright, like silk touched by starlight. Nkiru's lips trembled. "Who are you?" The old woman smiled gently. "I am the Tree Queen Mother," she said, and her voice felt like roots moving under the earth. "I have listened to you for many seasons." Nkiru's whole body turned cold. I am not dreaming." "No," the old woman said. "You are awake." The baby stirred and made a small sound, an innocent human sound. Nkiru's eyes flooded with tears again, but these tears were different. They were hope. The Tree Queen Mother stepped forward. "Hold out your hands." Nkiru obeyed, though fear shook her bones. The baby was placed into her arms. Warm, real, alive. The moment the baby's weight settled against her chest, something in Nkiru shattered open. A love so sudden and fierce she almost gasped. "My child," Nkiru whispered, as if the word was a secret. The Tree Queen Mother watched her quietly, then spoke with slow, careful power. "I have given you what you begged for. This child is called Ifunanya." Nkiru swallowed. "Love." Ifunanya blinked up at her, and for a moment, Nkiru forgot every insult, every lonely night, every hunger. But the Tree Queen Mother's smile faded. "This gift comes with a price," she said. Nkiru tightened her hold on the baby as if someone might snatch her away. "Anything," she said quickly. "I will do anything." The Tree Queen Mother's eyes brightened like fireflies in darkness. "Listen well, Nkiru. Ifunanya must never eat anything that grows from the soil." Nkiru frowned, confused. "Anything from the soil?" "No herbs," the Tree Queen Mother said. "No leaves. No vegetables. No roots. Nothing planted. Nothing harvested. Nothing that drank strength from the earth." Nkiru's mind raced. In a land where every pot was built with leaves and roots, where healing came from herbs, where meals were thick with garden greens, the rule was not small. "Why?" Nkiru whispered. The Tree Queen Mother leaned closer. "Because the earth recognizes her. And if the earth recognizes her taste, it will call her back." Nkiru felt her heart slam against her ribs. "Call her back to where?" The old woman's voice lowered. "To the forest. Me. To what she truly is." Nkiru's arms tightened around Ifunanya. "No." The Tree Queen Mother's gaze did not soften. "If she breaks this rule, the forest will reclaim her immediately." Nkiru's throat burned. "But how will I feed her?" The Tree Queen Mother's face remained calm. "You will find a way. Love always finds a way." Nkiru's eyes filled. "I swear," she said, voice shaking. "I swear I will obey. I swear I will protect her." The Tree Queen Mother studied her for a long moment, long enough for the forest to go completely silent. "Good," the old woman finally said. "Very good." Then her voice turned distant like thunder far away. "And know this, Nkiru. When Ifunanya becomes a grown woman, a test will come. Test of love and jealousy. Test of hunger and desire. Only a heart that is true can carry her through it." Nkiru's breath caught. What test? But the Tree Queen Mother's body began to glow softly, like mist lit by moonlight. "Be prepared," she whispered. Before Nkiru could move, before she could ask again, the old woman faded into the trees like smoke. Nkiru sat trembling, the baby warm in her arms, the forest suddenly alive again with birds and wind, as if nothing had happened. But Ifunanya's tiny hand curled around Nkiru's finger. And Nkiru knew. This was real. She pressed her forehead to the baby's. "You are mine now," she whispered. "No matter the price." And for the first time in many years, Nkiru walked out of the forest with hope strapped to her chest like a blessing. Raising Ifunanya was like carrying a lamp through a storm. Every day Nkiru fought fear. Not fear of hunger, she had lived with hunger. Fear of one careless moment, one spoon, one well-meaning neighbor. One taste this, it is sweet. Because in that faraway land, food was not just food. Food was tradition. Food was love. Food was community. And almost everything came from the soil. When Ifunanya was small, Nkiru managed. She fed her simple foods that did not carry the smell of earth. She learned to be watchful in a way only frightened mothers understand. She washed every pot twice. She questioned every ingredient. She kept Ifunanya close. And she told no one the truth. How could she? Who would believe her? People already looked at her like a woman whose life had gone wrong. Now she had a child, mysteriously, suddenly, with no husband. They stared at Ifunanya's pale shining hair and whispered until their tongues were tired. Whose child is that? Where did she come from? Look at her hair. Spirit child. Nkiru ignored them and worked. Ifunanya grew quickly. Too quickly. By the time she was 5, she spoke like an older child. By the time she was 7, her eyes held a quiet knowing that made adults uneasy. And strange things happened around her. One morning, Nkiru fell sick with a fever that cooked her blood. She lay on her mat shaking, her lips dry. She could barely lift her head. Ifunanya climbed beside her and placed a small palm on her forehead. "Mama," she said softly. "Don't fear." A gentle warmth spread from Ifunanya's hand like sunrise through harmattan. Within minutes, Nkiru's fever broke. Her sweat cooled. Her strength returned. She sat up suddenly, staring at her daughter as if seeing her for the first time. "What are you?" Nkiru whispered. Ifunanya only smiled. "I am your child." Nkiru hugged her tightly, tightly enough to almost hurt. But that night, after Ifunanya slept, Nkiru sat outside and stared into the dark, remembering the Tree Queen Mother's warning. The earth recognizes her. If the earth recognizes her taste, it will call her back. Nkiru's love became vigilance. As Ifunanya grew into a young girl, she made friends. 3 girls from nearby huts who were always together like woven threads. Their names were Adazaze, Amaka, and Ngozi. They played with Ifunanya under the shade of trees. They fetched water together. They laughed and chased each other through tall grass. They braided one another's hair and shared secrets. First, Nkiru was grateful. After all, every child deserved friends. But sometimes Nkiru noticed something. A glance. A quiet envy that arrived like smoke, silent but suffocating. Because Ifunanya was not ordinary. People began to come. When someone's child cried through the night with sickness, they begged Nkiru, "Please call Ifunanya." When storms threatened, villagers asked, "Will it rain? Will the wind destroy the roofs?" Sometimes Ifunanya would answer gently, "Stay indoors, or cover the yams, or tell them to bring their goats in." And her words were right. She never asked for money. She never boasted. She never acted proud. She only helped as naturally as breathing. But admiration is a sweet thing that can rot into jealousy if it sits too long. One day, after Ifunanya's quiet warning saved market goods from sudden rain, Nkiru overheard Amaka whispering to Adazaze, "Do you see how they look at her? Like she is a queen." Adazaze forced a smile. "She deserves it." Ngozi didn't speak. She only stared at Ifunanya's shining hair with a strange focus, as if trying to understand its secret. That night, Nkiru called Ifunanya close. "My child," she said softly, "promise me something." Ifunanya looked up. "What is it, Mama?" "Never eat food outside this house unless I have seen it," Nkiru said. "Never taste what others offer you." Ifunanya frowned. "But why?" Nkiru stroked her hair gently. "Because mothers fear what children do not see." Ifunanya nodded slowly. "I promise." Nkiru kissed her forehead. Relief and dread tangled together. Far away in the forest, the wind moved through leaves like a quiet warning. And the years continued to walk forward, steady, unstoppable, toward the day the Tree Queen Mother had spoken of. Ifunanya became a young woman the way sunrise becomes day. Slowly, beautifully, and without asking permission. Her laughter was soft, her voice kind, her eyes bright. People began to call her the Blessed One, even though she never asked for such a name. Nkiru watched her daughter with pride, but pride did not quiet fear. Because as Ifunanya grew, so did the attention around her. And attention is a hungry thing. Men began to notice Ifunanya. Women began to compare their daughters to her. Mothers whispered about marriage. Elders looked at her and spoke of destiny. But Nkiru saw what most people ignored. The way jealousy changes a person's face. Adazaze, Amaka, and Ngozi still visited, still laughed with Ifunanya, still called her sister. Yet their smiles became tighter. Their compliments began to carry small stings. One day, after Ifunanya helped an old man recover from a strange sickness, Amaka said, laughing, "Ah, our Ifunanya. Everyone will worship you soon." Ifunanya smiled, thinking it was a joke. "Don't talk like that." Ngozi watched quietly and said, "Maybe the forest loves you more than it loves the rest of us." The words were light, but something cold lived under them. Nkiru's unease grew. One night, she dreamed of roots curling around Ifunanya's ankles, pulling her down into darkness. She woke sweating and whispered a prayer with shaking lips. The next morning she went to the forest edge. Not deep inside, never deep inside, and called softly into the trees. "Great Mother," she whispered. "If you can hear me, please, protect my child." The forest gave no answer. But it listened. Days later, a small event happened that seemed harmless at first. A celebration was announced. Nothing grand, just a gathering to mark the changing season. People prepared food. There were pots on fire and laughter in the air. Women carried trays and called out for others to taste. Ifunanya's friends arrived early and pulled her toward the crowd. "Come," Adazaze said, smiling brightly. "Let us enjoy." Nkiru's heart jumped. She stepped forward quickly. "Ifunanya, stay near me." Amaka laughed. "Mama Nkiru, don't worry. We will watch her." Ngozi added softly, "We are her sisters." Nkiru smiled politely, but her fear did not move. When the food began to pass around, Nkiru stayed close. She refused bowls. She watched hands. She watched spoons. And that was when she noticed something strange. Ngozi kept disappearing, slipping away behind huts, returning with nothing in her hands, then whispering something into Amaka's ear. Amaka would nod, eyes shining with excitement. Adazaze looked nervous, as if she was being dragged along by a current she didn't want. Nkiru's instincts screamed. She pulled Ifunanya aside. "My child, go into the house. Now." Ifunanya blinked. "Mama, why?" "Go," Nkiru said, voice sharp with panic. Ifunanya obeyed, though confusion filled her eyes. As Ifunanya walked away, Nkiru heard Amaka whisper, annoyed, "She is always guarding her like a treasure." Ngozi's voice replied like a snake in grass. "Treasures have secrets. And secrets can be forced out." That night, Nkiru sat Ifunanya down, hands trembling. "My child," she said, "there is something I have never told you." Ifunanya's gaze softened. "You can tell me, Mama." Nkiru swallowed hard. "You did not come into this world the way other children came." Ifunanya's eyes widened. Nkiru told her about the forest, the tree queen mother, price, the rule. As she spoke, Ifunanya's face went pale, not with fear but with deep sadness, as if she had always known a piece of it. When Nkiru finished, Ifunanya whispered, "So the earth will take me?" Nkiru grabbed her hands. "Not if we obey. Not if we are careful." Ifunanya nodded slowly, then said something that made Nkiru's blood turn cold. "Mama, sometimes when I walk near the forest, I feel hungry for things I have never tasted." Nkiru's throat tightened. "What things?" Ifunanya's voice trembled. "Green things. Bitter things. Things that smell like rain and soil." Nkiru pulled her into an embrace as if she could hold her away from fate. Don't listen to it, she whispered. Don't listen. Outside, the forest wind sighed. And far away, under a tree where secrets like to sit, Ngozi spoke quietly to the other girls. If she tastes what grows from the soil, Ngozi said, eyes dark with determination, we will finally see what she truly is. Adazeze's voice shook. But what if something happens to her? Amaka snapped. Something is already happening to us. Look at the way people ignore us because of her. Ngozi leaned forward. Then we do it carefully. We do it on the day she cannot refuse us. Amaka's lips curled. Which day is that? Ngozi smiled slowly. The day people expect her to celebrate. The day arrived with bright sun. Ifunanya woke early, her heart strangely heavy. She sat on her mat and listened to the morning sounds. Women sweeping yards, children running, distant voices. Nkiru was already awake, moving around the house like a restless shadow. My child, Nkiru said, forcing calm into her voice. Today you will stay inside. Ifunanya looked at her. Mama, why are you afraid? Nkiru's eyes glistened. Because love sometimes comes with fear. And I have loved you with all my life. Ifunanya stood and held her mother's face. Nothing will happen. I will stay. Nkiru nodded, though her hands still shook as she tied her wrapper. I must go and sell firewood, she said. But I will return quickly. Ifunanya's voice was gentle. I will wait. Nkiru left with her bundle. But the moment she stepped out, her heart began to beat like a drum of warning. Inside the house, Ifunanya tried to be calm. Then there was a knock. Ifunanya hesitated. She remembered her promise. Another knock. When she opened the door, Adazeze stood there with a smile too bright to be innocent. Behind her were Amaka and Ngozi. Happy day, Adazeze said sweetly. We came to see you. Ifunanya's stomach tightened. My mother said I should stay inside. Amaka laughed lightly. Ah, your mother worries too much. Ngozi lifted a small covered bowl. We brought something special. Just for you. Ifunanya's eyes dropped to the bowl, and her heart began to pound. What is it? She asked carefully. Adazeze answered quickly. Something simple. Something sweet. You won't even know what it is. Ifunanya stepped back. No. Ngozi's smile thinned. Why? Ifunanya's voice trembled. I can't. Amaka's tone sharpened. So you don't trust us now? Adazeze's eyes pleaded. Ifunanya. We are your sisters. Ifunanya stared at their faces, the faces she had laughed with, cried with, shared childhood secrets with. Her heart wanted to believe them. Her fear wanted to run. Ngozi stepped closer, voice soft as cotton. It is only a taste. Just a taste, and we will leave you in peace. Ifunanya's lips parted. Then she remembered her mother's eyes, filled with terror. No, she said again, firmer. Amaka's patience snapped. You think you are better than us. Ifunanya flinched. No. Ngozi's voice became cold. Then prove you are not hiding something. Adazeze whispered. Please. Just take a small taste. If not for you, for us. Ifunanya's hands shook. She should have closed the door. She should have screamed. But sometimes betrayal wears the face of friendship and speaks with a familiar voice. Slowly, Ifunanya lifted the bowl's cover. The smell rose like a memory she had never lived. Green, bitter, alive. It smelled like rain hitting soil. It smelled like the forest after thunder. Her stomach turned, but not with disgust, with hunger. A strange, deep hunger. Just a taste, Ngozi whispered. Ifunanya's eyes watered. She lifted the spoon. The moment it touched her tongue, the world changed. The wind slammed against the hut as if an invisible giant had exhaled. The air darkened. Somewhere far away, deep within the forest, a sound rose, like old trees creaking awake. Ifunanya's pupils widened. She dropped the spoon. Her skin went cold. Her body trembled. Mama, she whispered, though her mother was not there. Outside, Leaves shook wildly though there was no storm. Amaka stumbled back. What did we do? Ngozi's face lost color. No, it was only food. Adazaze began to cry. Ifunanya. Ifunanya's feet slid backward as if the ground itself was pulling her. Her voice cracked. The earth, it knows. Then she screamed. Not a normal scream. A scream that sounded like roots tearing through soil. The door flew open without anyone touching it. The hut filled with cold wind, scented with deep forest darkness. Ifunanya's hair lifted as if underwater, shining like pale threads in invisible currents. Her knees hit the ground. And as she gasped for breath, the shadows at the doorway thickened, forming the outline of a tall, ancient woman. The Tree Queen Mother had returned. Her eyes glowed softly, not with anger, but with sorrow that was even more terrifying. It has happened, she said, voice heavy like stone. Ifunanya lay trembling, unable to stand, as if the taste had turned her bones to water. The girls fell to their knees, sobbing. We didn't know. Dazaze cried. Amaka's mouth opened, but no words came. Ngozi shook violently, her pride collapsing into fear. It was just a taste. The Tree Queen Mother's gaze shifted to Ifunanya. My child, she said softly, you have tasted what calls you. Ifunanya's eyes filled with tears. I don't want to go. The Tree Queen Mother's voice lowered. The earth does not ask permission. At that moment, Nkiru returned, running, breathless, eyes wild, as if something had pulled her heart on a rope. She burst through the doorway and froze. She saw Ifunanya on the ground. She saw the girls kneeling. She saw the Tree Queen Mother like a shadow made of ancient power. Nkiru dropped her firewood. My child! She screamed and threw herself beside Ifunanya, gathering her up. No. Great Mother, please. The Tree Queen Mother looked down at her. Nkiru, she said gently. You swore. Nkiru sobbed. I tried. I watched. I protected. Her voice broke into pieces. Please, Nkiru begged, holding Ifunanya like she could hold her soul in place. Take my life instead. Let my child stay. Silence swallowed the room. Ifunanya clung to her mother, shaking. Mama, don't let her take me. Nkiru lifted her face, tears pouring, and whispered the words that only true love can say without hesitation. Take me, Nkiru said. Let her remain. The Tree Queen Mother's eyes softened, and for the first time she looked almost human. There is another way, she said quietly. Nkiru's breath caught. Tell me. The Tree Queen Mother knelt, her voice calm and terrible. Ifunanya may stay in the human world, but the price will not be small. Ifunanya whimpered. What price? The Tree Queen Mother placed a hand on Ifunanya's head. If she stays, she said, she must become fully human. The forest will no longer flow through her. Her gifts will fade. The earth will forget her. And she will carry a hunger in her blood for what she can never again taste without danger. Nkiru didn't hesitate. I accept, she said immediately. Let her live. Let her be ordinary. Let her be mine. Ifunanya sobbed, gripping her mother. I accept too. The Tree Queen Mother closed her eyes. The air brightened with a soft light, like moonlight poured into the room. A gentle force moved through Ifunanya. Quiet, deep, final. When the light faded, Ifunanya's hair had changed. It was no longer entirely pale and shining. One half was dark as night. The other half remained bright like the moon. A mark of two worlds. The Tree Queen Mother stood slowly. Her gaze moved to the three girls. You, she said, voice cutting through them like cold water. Jealousy made you brave enough to destroy what you loved. Dazaze wept. Forgive us. Amaka shook, guilt choking her. Ngozi couldn't speak. The Tree Queen Mother raised her hand, not with cruelty, but with judgment. Let your heads be bare, she said, so the wind can always remind you what you did. A sudden gust swept through, and the girls screamed as their hair vanished like dust. They clutched their heads, sobbing. Then the tree queen mother stepped back toward the doorway, fading into the air like mist. "My work is done," she whispered. Nkiru held Ifunanya tightly, shaking, whispering, "You are here. You are here." Ifunanya's tears wet her mother's shoulder. "Mama, I feel different." Nkiru kissed her hair, both dark and bright. "As long as you are alive," she whispered, "we will learn the new way." Outside, the forest quieted. But somewhere deep inside it, roots settled, waiting, watching. After that day, life changed in ways that only mothers and daughters truly understand. Ifunanya did not vanish into the forest. She remained. She breathed. She slept. She woke. She stayed with Nkiru. But the world around her shifted. The gifts that once flowed through her like a river began to dry. When people came to ask her to heal, she would place her hand on them. Nothing happened. When elders asked her to predict storms, she would close her eyes. Darkness answered. First people were confused. Then they were disappointed. Then some grew cruel. So it was all fake. She has lost her power. Maybe the spirits punished her. Ifunanya listened quietly. She did not argue. She did not defend herself. She would only return home, sit beside her mother, and rest her head on Nkiru's lap like a child again. And Nkiru would stroke her hair and whisper, "Let them talk. You are alive." But the hardest part was the rule that still remained in Ifunanya's blood. Even though she was now human, the taste of soil food had awakened something in her. Pull. A whisper of hunger for what she was forbidden to eat. Some nights she would wake up sweating, craving the smell of green things, the bitterness of herbs, the fullness of vegetables, the things that other people ate without fear. But she could not. Because the tree queen mother's warning still lived in the air. The earth recognizes her. Nkiru became careful again. More careful than ever. They learned a new way of living. A new way of cooking. A new way of saying no without explaining. A new way of surviving questions. When neighbors offered soup, Nkiru would smile. "Our stomach is not strong for that." When friends invited Ifunanya to eat outside, she would politely decline. Some mocked her. Some pitied her. Some tried to tempt her. But Nkiru and Ifunanya held each other like two people walking a narrow bridge. Meanwhile, Adazaze, Amaka, and Ngozi became shadows of themselves. Their bald heads shone in the sun like shame made visible. Children pointed at them and laughed. Adults whispered. And whenever they tried to cover their heads, the wind would lift their scarves, exposing the truth again and again, as if the world itself refused to let the lesson hide. Adazaze tried to apologize many times. She would come to Nkiru's door with tears and trembling hands. "I am sorry," she would whisper. "I was weak. I followed them." Nkiru would look at her quietly and say, "You were not the hand that carried the bowl alone. But you were there." Adazaze would cry harder. Amaka became bitter, blaming everyone but herself. Ngozi grew silent, her pride crushed by the weight of what she had done. One evening, as the sky darkened, Ifunanya sat outside with her mother. The air was calm. Crickets sang. Far-off owl called. Ifunanya spoke softly. "Mama, do you ever regret asking for me?" Nkiru's breath caught. She turned, eyes wet. "Regret you?" Ifunanya's voice shook. "Look at the life we live. The fear. The restrictions. The price." Nkiru pulled her close. "Listen to me, my child. Some people live with full pots and empty hearts. I lived with an empty mat and a broken spirit. You healed me, before you ever healed anyone else." Ifunanya's tears fell. Nkiru continued, voice steady like a drumbeat. "I would choose you again, even if the price was heavier." Ifunanya hugged her. "I am afraid sometimes, Mama." "I know," Nkiru whispered. "But fear does not mean we stop living. We live carefully. We live wisely. We live together." A silence passed between them, soft, full, sacred. Then Ifunanya said something that made Nkiru's heart tremble. "Mama, I feel the forest sometimes." Nkiru stiffened. "What do you mean?" Ifunanya looked toward the dark line of trees. Not like before. Not power. Not voices. Just a memory. Like a song I can almost hear. Nkiru's fingers tightened around hers. And what does the song say? Ifunanya swallowed. It says I belong to two worlds. Nkiru pulled her into her arms fiercely. You belong here. With me. Ifunanya nodded, pressing her cheek against her mother's shoulder. Yes, I choose you. That night something strange happened. A gentle wind moved through their yard, carrying the smell of deep forest rain, though the sky was clear. Nkiru stepped outside and saw, at the edge of the darkness, a faint glow. Not bright. Not frightening. Soft like fireflies. For one heartbeat, Nkiru thought she saw the outline of the Tree Queen Mother standing between trees, watching. Then the glow faded. But Nkiru felt something settle in her chest, like permission. As if the forest itself had accepted their choice. Years passed. Ifunanya grew into a woman who did not need miracles to be meaningful. She worked beside her mother. They fetched water. They traded small goods. They laughed again, real laughter, not the laughter that hides pain. And the rule remained. Ifunanya never ate what grew from the soil. Not because she was forced, but because she chose life. And slowly, the fear loosened its grip. Not completely, because love never stops protecting. But enough for peace to enter their home. As for Adazaze, Amaka, and Ngozi, their lives became a quiet lesson in the village. When young girls began to envy one another, elders would point and say, "Remember what jealousy did." And when a mother held her child close, afraid of the world, someone would whisper, "A mother's love can defeat even the forest." Because that was the true story in that faraway land. Not the story of gifts. Not the story of power. But the story of a mother who begged for a child. And a child who stayed, even when the forest called her name. And that is why, to this day, people still say, jealousy is a quiet poison. Love is a louder power. And some blessings come with a price. But the heart that chooses love will always find a way to pay it.